G'day everybody, welcome back to my channel. Well, the weather down here in Australia is atrocious, man. I tell you what, it feels like such hard work trying to get even a few hours clear sky at the moment, never mind an entire clear night. So I thought what I might do today is just have a quick chat about my experiences with this guy here, the Celestron C9.25. It's my first Schmidt-Cassegrain for deep sky objects, and it's been pretty cool. I've got to say, my overall impression of this scope is that it's been really easy to use so far. I kind of expected, I don't know why, but I just expected, I guess maybe because of the focal length or something, to have a lot more issues with it. But in general, you know, what I've done, the only things that have gone wrong have been more my mistakes rather than any sort of issue with the scope. I've managed to take 4 images so far, so 3 galaxies. I'll show those. I will put those pictures up at the end so you guys can check them out and see what you think. So yeah, Centaurus A, Southern Pinwheel, NGC 6744, and I did manage to take my first duo narrowband image, so like long exposure with my Antlia Golden on this. I wasn't able to do that up to now because I'd only been able to use my guide scope, my 60mm guide scope, and basically once I hit above that 3-minute mark, which was fine for my galaxies, the stars were becoming elongated and it just wasn't guiding, so I just didn't have the scale to basically guide for long exposures. And that kind of comes back to my fault, really. I bought this second-hand camera a while ago, and I thought to myself, well, I can use this for planetary and I can use it as a guide camera as well. But of course, being a planetary type camera, it means that the focus range on these guys is obviously reduced quite a lot as compared to one of the mini cameras, which is just the, you know, normal 1 1/4 inch format, so you can slide the sensor down as far as you want to inside, so you get a lot more range in the focal point. And of course with these ones, they hit a lip or an edge, so you know, you can only ever get really the sensor down so far, and it basically meant I couldn't get focus with this, so I wasn't able to use this 482 as a guide camera. Maybe it works with some setups, but for the Celestron OAG and the amount of movement that I have in it, I couldn't actually get this working. So if you guys have got it working, let me know. If maybe I'm doing something wrong, but there just wasn't enough travel for me to get the sensor close enough. But anyway, yeah, like I said, it's been a really cool setup, and overall I've been super pleased with this thing. It's been an easy way just to get into imaging galaxies. I've never had the focal length before really to bother considering quite a lot of galaxies down here in the southern hemisphere, but this gets me to, let's see, with the reducer on, this gets me to 1327 focal length, and coming back to the reducer, actually, I know I'm using this with the 533 MC one-shot color camera. I'm going to leave that for now. I've got the mono set up now that I'm starting to get into, and you guys might have seen my license approval lately, which happened. My mate Morris, who came over. But back to my little reducer flattener here. So this is just the bog standard one that you normally get, the Celestron. I think it's been around for ages, and it fits a lot of their Schmidt-Cassegrain designs. I think it might be used in about, I don't know, quite a few of these, quite a few of the different Celestron Schmidt-Cassegrains, right up from 8-inch up, I think, to maybe 11. I'm not sure, but the stars out to the edge of the frame have actually been fine, and maybe that's also because I'm using quite a small sensor, so with a bigger sensor maybe that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I've been really happy with the images. So I did get the ASI 174 guide camera. It's a nice big sensor, and if you haven't used OAGs before, You know, part of the problem is as well is that you've got a prism in here and that's reflecting the image up onto your sensor. But often what happens is that it's not the whole image, it's just part of it, or that covers part of your sensor. So, you know, it's often advised is to get a bigger sensor as well, so you've got more chance of picking up those guide stars, because you are in obviously you're in at the full focal length here, which is at 1326. So using this little guide camera, this little 174, I've had I've had no problems at all picking up guide stars and guiding. That I would say is the main sort of learning thing here, the learning point. Yeah, just getting used to using an OAG, and I'm sure that counts with, whatever setup you're using really. I think they're just a bit different to get used to. So the autofocus actually worked fine as well. I've been using that with Nina, with the autofocus routine and the Hocus Focus plugin. I think there's a setting in there in Hocus Focus where you can set the pixel scale to long focal length, I believe, which I've set, and I've not had any issues with focusing. The dew shield's been working fine, so even on those very cold nights, well, at least for us down here, where it's down to sort of 0 or maybe a couple of degrees below 0, I've not had any issues with dew. I did have to crank the dew shield up a bit more than half, which is what I would normally have it at. So I think my dew heater was sort of set to about 2/3, 3/4, maybe something like that, because I found it wasn't quite keeping the dew off at halfway, so just something to consider. But that's all been working fine. This handle has been a godsend, lifting it up onto my mount. These big heavy scopes like this, these things are really well worth having. And yeah, with the handle on top here and holding it underneath, it just makes it so much easier to move around. So I think they were the main things that I wanted to mention. Collimation has always also been fine. I haven't actually checked this since I purchased it. It arrived from Perth in Western Australia, and the collimation was actually perfect. Like, I defocused a star, checked for the concentric ring, and it was perfect. So I probably should do that again and check if that's still the case. But that's been really easy. The one thing I'll say is probably I might have a look into, or if you guys have got any advice regards to either binning or what you do maybe post-processing. Do you do the equivalent of binning, 2x2 binning post-processing? Because this camera and this sort of focal length, it does end up with me being, let me just think which way, oversampled, I think that's the right way, oversampling my images. And what that means is that the images come out, I would say they come out a little bit on the soft side, so they're not quite as razor sharp as you might expect. But if I punch in the details into like one of these online calculators, yeah, it is being slightly oversampled, and often that does lead to this sort of slightly soft, slightly softer sort of image. So I might look into using Astro Pixel processor, which is what I use for stacking, and I might just try the opposite of what I do now with my drizzling, where it's being undersampled for my shorter focal length sometimes, especially like my Samyang 135 lens, and I might look at actually changing the settings there. Swapping the settings around, so basically doing the equivalent of 2x2 binning, which will make the image obviously smaller, but maybe it'll help. So I'll be interested to see if you guys, or if you guys want to tell me any tips or hints that you guys do with that. But overall, yeah, I found this guy really easy to work with. He's been pretty hassle-free. So look, we've got planetary season sort of now, and in a month or so it's going to be even earlier in the night. So what I'm also looking forward to doing is connecting this guy on here and seeing how we go with taking some planetary images. I've seen a few channels at the moment. Joe's Astrophoto, I think James from DSO Imager, Avantish from Deep Sky Hunter. They've all been taking some nice looking planetary images, so I'm keen to have a go. It's not something I've dabbled in that much, so I'm looking forward to getting this guy on. I've not got the ideal setup at the moment. I really need a 3x Barlow to get the right sort of scale, but for now I might just use my 2x Barlow and see how I go. But yeah, so look, I hope that's maybe helped if anybody out there is considering buying one of these guys. I've had a really positive experience with it overall. So if you enjoyed this content, maybe consider a like and a subscribe, as it does help the channel quite a bit. And I will leave you with some of the images, the 4 images that I mentioned. So 3 galaxy images, all which were about 3-minute exposures, probably all about a similar sort of time. I've not had a lot of clear skies, so probably only like sort of 6 hours each. And then my recent image of the Lobster or War and Peace Nebula, sort of a zoomed in version of that, which was around the 8 to 9 hours mark, and that was with the Antlia 5nm duo narrowband filter in on my 533. All of these images just taken with this 533 one-shot color camera. So thanks again, guys, and I hope you guys are getting a lot more clear skies than I am, and I'll see you very soon.